Podcasting since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts Radio Network. KingofPodcasts.com.
Hollywood doesn't care about making anyone famous. They care now more about how many followers do you got.
The King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the King of Podcasts.
So I've been going down the rabbit hole of YouTube, looking at various programs of my past, of my childhood. You know, growing up, I remember watching a lot of USA Network. If it wasn't cartoons, it was game shows we were watching, and old game shows. And if it wasn't, sitcoms we were watching that were on either on the independent channels or movies and things like that, or talk shows, whatever. One of the things that I could tell you was a lot of stars, whether they were in movies or television, that they weren't immune to being on television for just random stuff. They didn't have a problem being able to go ahead and be public friendly, be able to be entertaining, witty, charming, funny, or whatever. I mean, it's one thing in today's culture, the one show that really does a good job of having celebrities on and letting them be themselves is Graham Norton over at BBC. There's not even a question of that. And that's the only show out there I know of that really does that kind of thing. It's not the late night shows here. Saturday Night Live, yeah, somewhat to a point. They do give that chance, but only certain people get to go and be on that spot. You got to be really famous to be there. But those shows, Graham Norton or Saturday Night Live, that traditional sense, they're not going to bring on influencers. I don't remember if they've had any influencers on, because you don't. When I look at sporting events, they're trying to integrate that. You see with boxing, you see with football, you see with other sports. Let's get some influencers involved. Now, game shows. We still have game shows that are on prime time. Not that many that run during the day. But if you want celebrity-driven game shows, those are on in prime time. Whether it's Match Game or The Pyramid or, that's it. Like, there really isn't that much more. There's only maybe a couple of the shows. But in the years passed by, we used to have a time where we'd have game shows and talk shows and various platforms for publicity purposes. And even if somebody had something to plug or not, there were people that knew how to integrate themselves into the game. Think about it like this. Imagine now if you really want to try to go and do a good version of Hollywood Squares. We've heard that people have been doing the Hollywood Squares, trying to bring that show back. And you have to think about the B and C and D list stars they have that they're trying to go and use that, they're not doing much of anything and they're just kind of hanging on to do these shows. Same thing with Match Game, same thing with the $100,000 Pyramid. It's all that. They're just not good. But I look back at when Dick Clark hosted the Pyramid, or when I look at Peter Marshall hosting Hollywood Squares, or even John Davidson, or Tom Bergeron for that matter, and the people they were able to go and get as celebrities on those shows. And the same thing goes for various other shows, Match Game. I look at who was available as celebrities and what they were able to do with them on these shows. If they wanted to be on a talk show or an award show or whatever there was that could be on television, that gave them a chance to be a part of. You had stars that were very erudite that were able to go and get on. Listen, tonight, I got to quit saying listen because that's becoming a crutch word. I realized that. I've been listening back to myself. But here. So there was a Hollywood Squares episode I was watching earlier tonight. And on there, you had Karen Valentine of Room 222 fame. You had Dinah Shore, who talk show host, singer, a lot of entertainment behind her. Burt Reynolds was, just getting out of television and really making himself into movies. This was mid-70s this episode was on. Ava Gabor, who was on Green Acres. And then I'm looking at the other cast of characters to normally have on. Tony Randall was on there, who's done Broadway, who's done television, and like there's a whole lot behind him and the career he had. There were all these people that were able to go ahead and they could metamorph into whatever was needed for what they were doing. And they could be good for any show. We don't have that right now. So the question is, where's the talent coming from? We don't have that kind of talent that can do that. And the way that some celebrities are being noticed now, you have to find different places to go and find them. And then you might find clips that will be viral, but people are not actually catching the whole thing. It's just not that way. So there are other things that some of these magazines or publications that are doing. They're taking the load and trying to go and do something with promoting different things. Your press junkets are only so much out there that are going to be usable. That's what we got left. But I have an interview that's coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go ahead and air it here because we're going to get into the dead time of where Hollywood doesn't have that much going on. Entertainment news will be kind of dying down a bit as we get to the holidays. And I'm going to be playing back an interview that I had of Ralph Sutton, who is host of the Sex, Drug, and Rock and Roll podcast, the SDR show, also hosted the Tour Buzz, a syndicated album rock show for many years across radio stations across the country, and done a lot of work. Now he's very much into podcasting, does the Gas Digital Network, which you might heard of. A number of stars have come out of that realm. And one of the things he was telling me about the fact is, there is this thing about, and I think even Neil Viglio, when I had that interview a few weeks ago, there's something about where people are going to find talent. They do not want to go and try to create someone and make them famous. The music industry doesn't want to do the same thing. They just want to find someone that has followers, someone that has a following, somebody that might be caught up. Because people become famous online. Hollywood doesn't want to do the work they might have done and create stars. They don't want to do the whole thing of bringing someone that is a complete unknown, working on them, getting them ready to go and become famous, to become stars. They don't want to do that anymore. That's all gone because they can feel like, well, they have to go and they don't want to invest the money into it when they can go and just find someone that just already has some kind of fame, already has some kind of likability, some notoriety, something about them. They have followers. They're influencers. And since COVID and since after COVID, we have more people now that are becoming much more viable for Hollywood to go ahead and bring on board and to do something with. And since 2020, we've seen a few stars that have made their way through. I mean, we're talking about everyone after the reality era. So the Kardashians had their time. Kardashians, Jenners, whatever. And other celebrities that were out there that were made either from, let's say, The Bachelor, or let's say from other places, or Survivor, whatever. It's like all these talent shows like American Idol, America's Got Talent, The Voice. We have stars that come from those. And they didn't come from anywhere. They might have some kind of notoriety, or people might recognize them a little bit, but not nationwide or mainstream notoriety. But now the thing is, let's just go ahead and cheat, and we're going to find these followers, these influencers. See, the influencers are playing to the algorithm of whatever platform they're on. And keep in mind that if they are doing something, they might be more talented or multi-talented than you would imagine. But the problem is that they have to be stuck to a certain algorithm that will continue to generate followers and continue to generate hits or likes or whatever, so they can continue to monetize. They have to go and do the same thing over and over. It's very tough for someone to go ahead that is being made to be one-dimensional, either because that's what they have to do to keep the platform to feed their coffers. I just think we do have a lot of one-trick ponies out there. Somebody found something that people really get into and like, and then they get into it and then try to do something else. I mean, look at the TikTok feed. I mean, look, I'm one of those where I'm not getting that much traction on there, but I still go out there and put, apply my trade out there and put comments out there and put clips and see what happens. And there are some things that will do better than others. But social media doesn't work for someone like me because I'm not playing to the algorithms. Because my thing is, my content might not be for everyone. And I also rotate and change up what I talk about, just like I do with my podcasts. So I also will take a risk if I'm doing a podcast or if I'm doing content of any kind, audio or video. I'm risking myself the fact that if I did one particular subject and just kept rolling on it and milking it for all it's worth, yeah, I might get some more traction in the long run, more followers, more monetization. Who knows? But I'm not doing that. Because to me, I just feel like, okay, it's still difficult for people to go ahead and do something with themselves, to give themselves something more. Let's put it like this. So Mr. Beast, a great example of, okay, because of the money he has been able to raise from the stuff that he's been able to do, okay, he's doing charitable work. He's, becoming an entrepreneur. He has a lot of different products he does. He has the burger business. He has chocolate bars. He has all these other things that he's doing. So for his business, it's very multi-level. But for whatever talent he has, I don't know what it is. I don't know the appeal. And there are others that are out there that supposedly have some appeal, but it's like, okay, they have their one lane. Somebody might be just good at cooking. Somebody might be just good at some commentary of one certain thing or pop culture, whatever they are. But I know there are people out there that because they're online, they're saying, well, why do I have to be stuck in a pigeonhole of doing one particular thing? Which is, for me, I don't want to do that. I want to do radio. And podcasting is the new radio. So I'm doing that. I'm not worried so much about content. Like, I want good quality content that I can talk about, but I feel like I can be knowledgeable on various fields. And I have some wisdom and I have some things, some takeaways I can give. So I can do a show like this and flip to a wrestling show the next day and flip to a show on society, dating, and culture the next day after that. And I can do that. I can talk about the cannabis industry because I do that on another show. So there's other things I like to talk about besides. But that's not what people want in their content. People want to be able to have it where you're not necessarily programming content that's going to be for a large audience. That's going to be broadcasting. Every influencer is narrowcasting. But then Hollywood wants to go ahead and recruit some of these folks that have been narrowcasting for their entire public persona. And then they're going to try to expand them into doing something more. And they'd rather just go through as many as they can to see if they sink or swim, and then eventually find someone that will come across and say, okay, maybe we can do something with them. And has anyone really become truly famous as a result of this? Not necessarily. But the other thing that happens is that what happens when these influencers are brought in and they sell out? Because for the most part, these influencers are driven by money. Not a passion for what they're doing. They're trying to do this because this is a way for them to go ahead and make ends meet. Or become successful and famous and make the money. But the money is very important. Now, going back about 3 weeks ago, Hollywood Reporter put out a story that talked about how Hollywood learned to love influencers. Maybe about 4 weeks ago. And Taylor Lorenz put out the story and says that 2025 is the year that the power dynamics in Hollywood finally flipped. The content creator industry is finally surpassing traditional Hollywood in terms of clout, cultural capital, and increasingly size. But the creator industry is rapidly professionalizing. Facing disruption by the proliferation of AI, the landscape is being upended by politics, and live streaming is rewriting the nature of fame and fandom. But no matter what, sure, influencers in certain things are getting used to be something more. So for press junkets, you're seeing more influencers being involved. If there are certain things that you can kind of use for, say, advertising or for marketing purposes, or just something that's something short form content, and not necessarily anything bigger that might be on a bigger platform like television or movies, they're going to use them for something like that. It's kind of throwaway stuff. YouTube is now the number one streaming platform. This year it happened, passing Netflix and Amazon for the first time. People watching YouTube now more on their sets than any phones or any other device. YouTubers are becoming some of the biggest TV stars today. Now, and I'm surprised it's really like that because, yeah, YouTube has original content, and there's a lot of original content that's not from YouTube itself, but also just people that got on the YouTube, and they're exclusive on YouTube. And there are those stars I don't even catch up to. Because, I mean, it's really interesting about YouTube. what you're looking for over there. Like if you were able to go and open up a new login, and then let's just see what YouTube gives you in your recommendations. I mean, what kind of audience is getting those recommendations of these particular people? That is what I don't know. But YouTube, just like TikTok, just like other places, the algorithms will make sure that you get content that you want to keep you on there. So it's not as if the influencers here, these content creators, are getting seen by everybody, but there's a large audience they get, but they're not getting exposed to everyone like they would if people were to look for them on television or movies. That's the thing that comes up with social media and comes up with streaming like this, where, you know, you're getting recommendations, you're getting algorithms that are giving you what you feel like you want, but they're not going to leave you just open with a platform and say, okay, here's everything we got. Because if you get overwhelmed and inundated with content, you're not going to watch. You just might as well you're not going to take the time to go and go looking around. Because in this time of technology, no, we have curated content for every user so that you're on the platform for as long as possible and getting those right kind of people that are going to benefit from them having their content put in front of you so you watch it more, and then the creators get more money. So while there's the bulk of people that might be getting curated content that might be this larger end stuff, it's most of the stuff I don't get, but I'm also not going out of my way to go find it either. Outside of YouTube, the creator economy is now a $250 billion global force. The thing is that these big Hollywood powerhouses, they want to be involved in the money that these folks are making because they're also taking money away from themselves. So they want to get involved with that. And we're going to go into the whole story of where you're seeing this happening so much and the involvement of these content creators now into things that Hollywood would normally give to someone they're trying to go and build because they can trust and create. We talked plenty in the last few years after COVID when influencer marketing became really rampant. And we talked about the fact that with guests out there on this program, the folks out there would say that influencers were not necessarily loyal or people they could rely on because the early influencers, the pioneers, they were going to go and buck the system. But they were also going to get screwed over because the kind of offers they were going to get, you know, Hollywood's going to go and use it for whatever they can and throw them away. But now the power and the clout, as this story says, the influencers have it now. They now have all the chips they want. They don't need Hollywood. Hollywood needs them. It's turned around. And with the less amount of actors and actresses out there for all these different projects, they got to do something to be able to make this happen. So the next 2 years, the content creator industry should double to $480 billion. 67 million people today are currently working as full or part-time creators. I guess this is in the U.S. out of 340 million. And by 2030, there'll be maybe more than 105 million content creators. In the U.S. alone, content creators contributed $55 billion to the gross domestic product in 2024, which is equivalent to 500,000 jobs. This is according to Oxford Economics. So now we know that one of the things that has helped out influencers is the quality of their content, whether it's them buying better cameras, better phones, better equipment, better editing work, better everything. They're polishing their product. And then the chance to go and do content can be a little bit longer, give people a little bit more time to go ahead and really give something out there that Hollywood or other folks can go and audition and check to see if somebody's going to be really viable for what they're looking to do in the project for them. Whether it's an agent, whether it's a studio, whether it's some director, producer, whatever there might be of what they're looking to go and do. Sponsored content deals expected to surpass $10 billion this year. More advertisers cutting back on traditional media advertising, diving headfirst into influencer marketing. So what was 15 years ago plus low quality lip sync videos on YouTube or performing skits on Vine now is a dominant force in media, commerce, and culture. So they talked to a couple of consultants here in this Hollywood Reporter article, And first of all, they talked to Elisa Light, who is founder of Leave Your Mark, a digital strategy consultancy, founding member of the American Influencer Council, that not only is traditional talent embracing digital platforms, but writers, actors, and producers who previously worked in traditional entertainment are now working on social-first content. Creators are hiring script writers, production managers, and out-of-work actors as Hollywood pivots. And that there's been a big shift since the writer's strike, that what people are doing, they're embracing more of digital because they have to be noticed there, to get more work there, all of that. Netflix in January, to be an example of those studios looking to go and try to do something more with content creators, they hired a popular YouTube educational creator known as Mrs. Rachel. Her name's Rachel Curso. They brought 4 episodes of her show onto the platform. And Ted Sarandos, the co-CEO of Netflix, said they were actively hunting for internet talent. Quote, "We want to be in business with the best creatives on the planet, regardless of where they come from." Saying that Netflix is also looking at a wide variety of video podcasters that might be a good fit for us. And that came to be. Tubi now has Tubi for Creators, where they're bringing episodic content from influencers onto the streaming platform. And they now have 6 inaugural creators, including Jubilee, Rhett, and Link, and Watcher, and more than 500 hours of creator-made content across the platform on Tubi, which is owned by Fox. Owned by Disney now. They talked to Creative Logic founder Avi Gandhi, who writes about the businesses of creators, that he's surprised why not more of the legacy studios have sought to lean in more into influencers. The richest trove of IP and human history is right in front of us, and they're not mining it. But that the Hollywood executives have to figure things out because there's a rising tide of companies like Chronicle Studios, Further Adventures, and Superordinary that are going to become the new studios if these others don't figure it out. The new class of professionalized, Hollywood-ready creator talent. Wait a minute. Take that back there. Professionalized, Hollywood-ready. Hollywood-ready to be recruited does not mean Hollywood-ready to be ready to go on camera and be able to go and perform or do whatever task is required. There's a difference. Now, some of these content creators are also building more media ventures. Gandhi makes the point that the fastest growing kind of group in the creative economy are grown-ups, adult professionals, laid off or tired of working for a company, becoming creators as a way to grow their own business. At later stage, professional creators are seeing a boon for advertisers seeking to reach previously untapped communities online. And big brands are allocating more money. Unilever's incoming CEO says the company is going to spend 50% of its media budget with creators and multiply the number of creators that the company works with by 20. But then the other part that people are talking about is that while this is all going on, people need to be aware of, because AI might also throw a wrench into this new economy being built in, which has only had a few years to go and really fester and exist. Sora 2 from OpenAI is making a big dent right now in the possibilities. If AI is able to go and catch up to a certain point and content is able to be done where these companies only want to do this, listen, there's a lot of jobs out there in AI right now for language learning and a lot of jobs available in that way for remote work. And they're figuring it out. And it's just a matter of time before AI becomes not perfect, but usable enough to be used in a lot of ways where influencers will be obsolete. Because as influencers get older, influencers might not be able to go and do everything that they want. And, you know, if you just go and clone someone that is even similar to an influencer, they're going to be just fine. They're going to be able to go and put us whatever content they want. And eventually it will happen. They also talk about the part of the political folks, and I'm not going to worry about that. There's a lot in political content, a lot of money, and a lot of people working in it. And they're very famous and notable. I just don't know if they're going to be anybody you want to go and see on anything that Hollywood's doing right now. That's the difference. We've talked about some of the influencers that have broken out. And, you know, one thing that will help out is if you see them doing things where you catch them in clips that really make them stand out. I Show Speed, Darren Jason Watkins Jr., Kai Cenat, ages 20 and 23 respectively. breakout years, but they've already been breaking out for a long time anyway, last couple of years. iShowSpeed on a world tour currently, giving viewers an unfiltered look into countries like China from his perspective as a Gen Z creator. Sanat taking over an entire university campus, now streaming a streamer university, an online reality show to find the next big influencer. All these things are being done. Now, what's happening next? It's not just Hollywood. We are now seeing the branching into other areas. So TikTok now has joined forces with iHeartRadio or iHeartMedia. This is what really caught my attention because I was like, all right, what are we doing here? So now there's a multi-platform partnership with iHeartMedia where TikTok creators are going to be brought into the iHeart ecosystem. There will be the launch of the TikTok Podcast Network with 25 podcasts, all new, hosted by TikTok creators, and a national broadcast and digital radio station, and a series of live event integrations. So TikTok getting their own mainstream platform. You could say via iHeartMedia, which maybe not so much important with their own broadcast outlet, whether if they're syndicating content to other radio stations, probably nobody cares really too much about that, but the digital streaming side and the podcast side is very important to them. This new network will give short-form video creators a way to expand their storytelling beyond the TikTok platform. And iHeartMedia is introducing new co-branded state-of-the-art podcast studios in Los Angeles, New York, and Atlanta, which will feature advanced audio and video infrastructure for both podcasting and video production, with a roster of creators building stronger bridges between their video and audio content. Co-branded state-of-the-art podcast studios. So they're just thinking of their clusters and probably making room for these podcast studios, okay? That's what they're doing. And these new podcasts will be widely distributed by our podcasts and everywhere you can hear them. And you can also find show highlights and clips on TikTok. And together, they're also going to create TikTok Radio, a fast-paced format pairing TikTok creators with experienced iHeartRadio personalities. It will not only feature TikTok's hottest new songs, but also trend-driven storytelling and emotional context behind the music, including segments like Behind the Charts, New Music Fridays, and On the Verge. So TikTok Radio will be not be limited to digital. They will be available across broadcast stations nationwide and digitally on the iHeartRadio app. So I can see where they're going to try to take the pop stations that are struggling right now. Get rid of the talent that we have right now that are voice tracking all these stations, or they don't have anything else to go and put in, that you could just put this content and just integrate it into these stations, whatever they might be. I can see that happening. And of course, TikTok radios will also be integrated into their signature events like the iHeartRadio Music Festival and the Jingle Ball events that happen nationwide. They already started their partnership earlier this year with Next Up Live Music, a singing competition hosted exclusively on TikTok Live with emerging artists. Massive fan engagement was generated and proving the power of live, creator-driven music discovery. And iHeart and TikTok will also offer mass reach marketing across each platform and leverage iHeartMedia and TikTok's coast-to-coast and global sales teams. So TikTok getting involved in another platform where all these TikTok creators can go ahead and do something more in the radio side, because radio needs something. So they're throwing a carrot. And iHeartRadio or iHeartMedia is hoping to go ahead and monetize off of it. And hopefully bringing some of the younger listeners or viewers, or even some of those other people that go and bring them back into what iHeartMedia is doing. A younger demographic, possibly a money demographic, because they can't keep relying on these older formatted stations, these older skewing stations, and a dying listener base that continues to get older and older every day. So there's radio and iHeartMedia in the podcast realm, now giving room for TikTokers. How about YouTube? Well, we talked about YouTube shows going more to Netflix, and the streamer wants to make them bigger. So let's talk about what they've already done so far. You have Miss Rachel, Prank Collective The Sidemen, dating show Pop the Balloon, all being brought on to Netflix. So there've already been shows going on right now that YouTube's going to get deals to be done with Netflix. That's already happened. Now there are other shows that are going to try to be put out there to replace programming, the next thing that YouTube is trying to go and do right now is if they can get new Hollywood to rival traditional late night formats. So YouTube now pushing shows like Brittany Broski's Royal Court. So here's what we got from that. So they featured Kyle MacLachlan in the story, who was featured on the launch of season 3 of Brittany Broski's talk show Royal Court, streaming on YouTube. And he appeared on the show. He has his own podcast now, What Are We Even Doing? When has blown up on TikTok, serving as a bridge between old Hollywood and what is new Hollywood, according to YouTube. He was joined at the house, where is the location for the bloody ending of Scream 3, and he was accompanied by Fortune Feimster, Bob the Drag Queen, and Orville Peck, as well as a bunch of other YouTube stars and influencers such as Rhett McLaughlin, Josh Scherer, Drew Afualo, Shane Topp, and Brooke Averick. So Royal Court is a medieval-themed talk show seeing Broski, who became famous for her 21-second take on kombucha. She's interviewing celebrities like Brie Larson, Hannah Einbender, David Cornsweet, Diego Luna, Coleman Domingo, and Charlie XCS. So these are the people that people want to go and watch and see if they did have anything like a late night talk show or a talk show in general, because we already know that there's very few talk shows that are left that anybody's even watching, and the late night talk shows continue to lose audience. With a bunch of old guys out there that people are not even getting into or that are not even getting viral anymore. Not at all. Now, Broski says that she wanted to create a show when she created the show like Game of Thrones and Sean Evans' Hot Ones. And again, Hot Ones also doing very well, getting an Emmy push now this year. And when YouTube talks about the fact about Royal Court, they're saying it's not only being embraced by fans, but nearly 6 million people watching the episode featuring Cole Sprouse and creators, but also advertisers such as Cash App being involved in the show. So you look at shows like Royal Court, Hot Ones, or video podcasts like Alex Cooper's Call Her Daddy, Theo Vaughn's This Past Weekend, or Jason Travis Kelce's New Heights. Can they compete with the traditional late night formats? So Nielsen reports that YouTube has an average of 11.1 million people tuning in to YouTube during primetime hours. Netflix, 10.7 million viewers. That's an interesting stat. And Broski also talked about the fact of how late night shows are struggling with the cancellation of The Late Show, the recent suspension of Jimmy Kimmel. Quote, I think we're in a new exciting era of talk shows right now. We're kind of watching the demise of old Hollywood and the influx of new Hollywood. It's an honor and a privilege to have YouTube to be my kind of champions. To be my champions. So that's a little bit, come on, make it a little bit easier for me to go and read that, please. Now, this week, YouTube had created their first ever creator premiere showcase of the Metrograph, and it's like their own upfronts. Even after the networks and the other media outlets in the fall did their own upfronts, the network upfronts. We're getting this here from the digitals now. So YouTube is launching a bunch of new titles, including a new weekly late night show and a stand-up special featuring former Daily Show host Trevor Noah. Google President Sean Downey crowed about YouTube being the number one streamer for the past 2 years. And this event was being hosted by rising influencer Julian Shapiro Barnum, who runs the Recess Therapy channel, has 1.3 million subscribers. He is going to launch a new live weekly late night series in the spring called Outside Tonight. Set in public parks and street corners, Outside Tonight features interviews, audience-driven games, live music, and comedy. Kind of a variety kind of thing. And then Trevor Noah is going to be hosting a Lost Essay special, which will debut on his channel, filmed in South Africa during his last world tour, singing and performing entirely local material. Then you have Mark Vins, a wildlife filmmaker and explorer, launching Reef the Ridge on the Brave Wilderness channel, which already has 21 million subscribers. They will be journeying across the Galapagos' most extreme habitats, diving deep beneath the sea and scaling the highest volcanic summit to document rare wildlife and confront mounting threats to one of Earth's most wildest frontiers. Then you have also even holiday content. 7 Days of Christmas from Dar Man, which is launching, and it'll be a scripted series that will feature 7 25-minute episodes. You have Ms. Rachel doing new episodes on her YouTube channel, in early 2026 after getting episodes sold to Netflix. Those episodes, earlier episodes. And then the other part, of course, that comes into this place, you know, if Hollywood is getting involved in this, if these folks are getting unionized. So Theorist Media, YouTube content studio, Hollywood guilds are looking to organize more than 24 workers at this Los Angeles and Raleigh-based production company, which has several popular YouTube channels. Here we go. The Editors Guild for the Motion Picture Industry and the Writers Guild of America, WGA West, are trying to make inroads in the exploding creator economy. So looking to unionize Theorist Media. They host popular YouTube channels like The Game Theorists, The Food Theorists, The Film Theorists, and others, according to Hollywood Reporter. And this is one of the first times that either union has either sought to get a bargaining group voluntarily recognized at a company that produces YouTube content. But everybody's getting themselves involved. That's what we're seeing right now more than ever. Okay, a few more things I want to go ahead and drop in before we go and wrap things up. A big acquisition in the area of digital audio streaming, TuneIn, which is a service I've been listening to for a long time. Now, here's a little bit of fun fact. What was the name of TuneIn before it was TuneIn? Does anybody remember what it was? It started in 2002. Radio Time. First started as Radio Time. They changed to TuneIn, and ever since it's been blown up, and it's really a great radio and podcasting service. And I've always enjoyed TuneIn. There's various things that you can go and catch on there that a lot of stations you can go and catch on. They're really wonderful to go and catch on that particular platform. Well, Stingray Group, maybe you've seen their channels. They're kind of the same thing like we used to have Music Choice back in the day, where they would have channels on all the cable services. Like in the back of the cable service, like you have all these channels at the very last channels on your cable channels, like the 9,000 level channels. Well, there you catch Stingray, which has its various digital channels. So Stingray has now acquired TuneIn for up to $175 million. Now, Stingray owns music, digital, and advertising services worldwide, video and audio channels, subscription video on demand content, fast channels, karaoke products, music apps, a lot of stuff. They also own 97 radio stations in Canada. So the deal is going to have it where Stingray is paying $150 million US at closing and up to $25 million, whether in the first, within 12 months, based on forecasted sales of $110 million and an adjusted EBITDA of $30 million for the year ending December 31st. So a lot of money being put in. The idea is that the deal creates a global audio leader with meaningful scale, TuneIn's active listeners, Stingray's existing distribution, giving advertisers a highly engaged audience, and looking to go and make up and ends of $400 million a year. Crazy. Well, this story from Robin Pryor at RadioInsight.com caught my attention. How AI is transforming the future of entertainment. And one of the things I was looking at now is that, how much is AI going to get involved when it comes to radio production? I still think it's not going to be that much involved. But I think some of the music might be AI generated. We're starting to hear that now with some of the songs that might be heard on TikTok, that might become viral, that might chart, that maybe radio might play someday. So this writer here, Robin Pryor, makes the point that radio is more than technology, filling kitchens, corner shops, and car rides, narrating local news, music discoveries, and sporting triumphs. Personalities being familiar, quirks embraced. Listening felt like being part of something larger, even when sitting alone. Radio never went away, because even when you have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Spotify playlists replacing morning DJs, still something about radio, and the golden era of radio personalities might feel distant, it still has a place in the world. So he says that AI is quietly shaping what is possible in the medium, what a station can offer, while raising questions about what it might lose. But apparently, AI is starting to embed itself in the music broadcasting, not just in playlist curation, but the creation of delivery of radio itself. So now we have radio AI software does creating radio content automatically, from generating scripts and music playlists to producing voices and digital updates, allowing stations to run shows without a full human team. Radio GPT, we've talked about before, is stepping to bring AI to radio, using advanced language models and real-time content scanning to do more than play music, but create entire radio shows with minimal human input. They can monitor social media and news to find trending topics in the local market and generate scripts that AI voices can deliver on air. Stations can choose solo, duo, or trio formats, or even train the AI to sound like their existing hosts. And Radio GPT can run a single segment or an entire broadcast day and work across all radio formats as a customizable software solution. So think about the fact that social channels, digital platforms can be updated automatically. Small stations and niche venues can gain access to tools once reserved for major broadcasters. Hospitals, airports, retail spaces can run branded professional sounding stations without full-time production teams. Places like casinos, a great example. The best sweepstakes casinos can now offer continuous tailored audio that entertains guests, highlights promotions, maintains atmosphere while reducing staffing costs and complexity. Sounds like a sales pitch, doesn't it? Because that's Radio GPT actually talking about this. They're saying that radio is changing but not disappearing. Voices might be different, workflow might be automated, but the need for connection, for someone to talk to during the morning commute or late night drive home remains. So that's where they're coming from with this. And AI is coming into space. And they're not wrong about it. I just don't think you could do that much with it. Listen, we have to find out. I just said it again. We have to wait and hear if there are radio stations that become popular enough once again as a result of what this kind of technology can do to help out. But I think the idea of the TikTok format and the TikTok creators might be able to go and do something with radio, because I think there's something to that there. The quirkiness, the personalities that might be out there. The most important thing would be if any of those folks can actually translate well into radio and maybe find a way to be so quirky enough and so humble themselves to be entertaining and funny and be able to go ahead and just do it off the cuff, that maybe they can actually go and translate well. I'm not willing to go ahead and throw in the towel on this. I want to give it a chance. So once the TikTok content starts coming up on iHeart, I want to find out what it is and see how it does. I hope they do well. I'm not going to go and shoot that down. So Spotify is now soon going to bring out their Supremium plan, a Supremium tier, which was offered at a higher price than the Premium, additional user perks. And the music industry is waiting for this. And at the moment, it's now in India, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, and UAE. It's already started over there. So the new plan of offerings will be Premium Light, Premium Standard, including a student version, and Premium Platinum. So it's a pilot launch in a restricted number of territories. They're bringing out the premium subscription to Spotify in India, which will cost 139 rupees a month, or $1.57 American. Now the Premium Standard will now cost $2.24 a month American, or 199 rupees. The pilot markets are all emerging streaming economies, representing regions where Spotify sees significant growth potential. And the features being exclusively available on Premium Platinum in these markets are already currently available to standard premium subscribers like myself in the US and the UK. And the pilot marks a shift in the Spotify strategy for lossless audio, with the audio perk gated behind the highest price tier in the 5 markets affected by today's change. And now lossless is being rolled out to standard premium subscribers in over 50 markets starting in September, which will include US, UK, Australia, Germany, and Japan. Already happened. I enjoy lossless. It really does sound great. And what's surprising too is that if you have it on Wi-Fi, like I do, I don't have lossless put on my data because I know it's going to suck my data up. If it's taking up a gigabyte per hour or something like that, no. As high a quality as I can behind lossless, I have on data, but on Wi-Fi, it's lossless. And it sounds great. in every particular way it does. The quality is wonderful. They're not wrong about that. So we're going to wrap things up, and let me just tell you what I got come in store for the movies. I did watch Nuremberg. I don't watch Christie. I don't know what the whole deal was with Christie, being in such a bad movie. I will say that I was the only person watching Christie in my theater. It was put in a small screen, and it wasn't put in any real spot. I never saw any real promotion for it at all. I just knew what the story was going to be about. I knew Sidney Sweeney was in it. So if there was any marketing behind it, never saw it. Nuremberg, I saw some. And there were some people that were there. I thought Russell Crowe did a great job in his role. Rami Malek was great. It was a quiet and interesting movie. Opened my eyes to a lot of things when it comes to that, the trials after World War II. And then this weekend, I'll be watching, on the same night, I'll be watching the Running Man reboot, which I got to still watch the original if I can find it somewhere, just so I can have a comparison. And then also, I want to be able to go in and watch Now You See It, Now You Don't. I'm going to actually catch both of them. I'm going to try to watch both at the same time like I did before. That's going to be an interesting thing for me to do if I can pull it off. But I'll let you know how it all works out. And I will have more interviews with radio folks coming up on the program because I've been doing some more recordings, got some more scheduled. I will keep you in touch with those. And we'll be doing some year-end collectives on what we have happened in this year in media. We'll be doing that pretty soon in a couple of weeks. Remember, the content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands. Talk to you next week.